Good morning and welcome to the Lancashire Apprenticeships Conference. Of course, it would be lovely to be sharing coffee and a croissant with you all, live, in person. But like all your businesses and organisations, we've had to make a few changes too. And anyway, I'm 6 coffees in, so this should be a lively affair anyway. Not that you'll need the stimulus of caffeine. Our speakers today will provide plenty of that. My name is Richard Slater and I'm the publisher of Lancashire Business View magazine, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to this event presented in association with our friends from Plus 24 Academy, from Blackburn College, from Blackpool and the Fylde College, from Burnley College, Nelson and Cone College, North Lancs Training Group, Pearce Chartered Accountants, Preston's College, and finally Upskilling Lancashire at the University of Central Lancashire. The theme for this year's National Apprenticeships Week is Build the Future. It's a theme that carries even more weight as Lancashire businesses look to post-COVID recovery. And we've drilled that down into 3 key areas of discussion for today. Firstly, how apprenticeships can address the here and now issues with skills gaps and the thinking towards future skills needs. Our second focus will be to consider the value of apprenticeships to businesses of all sizes, all shapes and in all sectors. And our third spotlight will fall on the range of apprenticeships available, both in terms of the subjects covered and the fact they range from GCSE equivalent to master's degree equivalent accreditations. To do that, we've brought together figures from the county's priority business sectors and the skills providers who work with them. There are many challenges to our businesses: the pandemic, the EU exit and the trading turbulence that comes along. But we all know the value of a motivated and skilled workforce. Our people are our business. It's one of the most familiar refrains. And so today our job is to investigate the role apprenticeships can play in meeting our challenges, in grabbing our opportunities by working with our people in a better way, by working with our providers and working with apprenticeships. Today we've got interviews coming and we've 3 panels with speakers eager to share their wisdom, their insight. Each panel is briefed to focus on one of those themes. And once again, skills gap now and skills in the future, the breadth of businesses which can benefit and the depths of qualifications that are available. Doubtless, there will be other conversation points and we welcome your questions throughout the event. Please share those to me right through the Zoom chat box. And at the formal conclusion of this event, we will decamp to the informal chaos of an all-in networking event, should you wish to stay for a virtual brew at the end. But first, I'd like to introduce our first guest. Lisa Moyser is Strategic Coordinator of the Lancashire Skills and Employment Hub. Before joining the Hub, Lisa managed a European Social Fund programme spanning Greater Manchester. She's a qualified business mentor and has more than 13 years' experience in the employment and skills sector, including working for Lancashire County Council and the Learning and Skills Council. Good morning to you, Lisa. How are you today? Hi, Lisa. How are you? How are you today? Lisa, you may need to flip on your sound for us.
Fabulous. Can you hear me now, Richard?
Oh, we can hear you loud and clear. Lisa, I kind of described in a rather long fashion there your job title. Where do you sit in the Lancashire apprenticeships landscape, Lisa? What's your role and who do you help?
Okay, fantastic. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for inviting me to speak today this morning, Richard. I work for the Lancashire Skills and Employment Hub, which is part of the Lancashire Enterprise Partnership. We have a board called the Lancashire Skills and Employment Advisory Panel, and the Skills Hub supports the board. So we work with stakeholders right across the patch to set the skills and employment priorities for Lancashire. We're a strategic team and we collaborate with partners to achieve shared objectives and actions in our strategic framework. That's actually been refreshed and last week was published on our website, so please go and have a look at that. Now, apprenticeships are a key priority running through that framework, and part of my role is that I have responsibility for the Apprenticeship Action Plan. The Action Plan is produced and owned by a group of key partners, and we aim, and this is about the helping bit, help businesses to identify and communicate how apprenticeship provision can meet their skills needs and train their workforce.
Lisa, could I just ask you, if I may, could you just speak to us a little more loudly than you might feel comfortable doing. We just
Okay,
need to
no
get a little
problem.
bit more of you, if I may,
Yeah,
Lisa.
no problem. So that first aim in helping businesses is to identify and communicate how apprenticeship provision can meet the skills needs and train their workforce. Then we make it simple for businesses to get the support they need if they want to take on an apprentice. And then we help people at all ages access advice to make informed choices. And this is something that we need businesses support to do, is they're key in inspiring young people and older people's choices.
One
And
of the
then we
things.
facilitate and coordinate the whole approach.
Thanks, Lisa. You meant you were right in there, right, almost in the first phrase that you gave me I got the sense of conversation between yourselves, the providers, the employers, and the apprentices themselves. Is it that four-way meeting with perhaps government and national influencing as well?
Yes, and it has to be. We can't have one without the other. We need people to understand the benefits for themselves as an individual, and for businesses to understand what apprentices can give to them. And I
Understood.
mean,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, please.
sorry, go on. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, the you've laid out a nice picture there, and I wonder if you could broaden that of how apprenticeships are developing, perhaps changing, and perhaps if you could just reference some of the challenges and opportunities for businesses and providers.
Yeah. So in terms of how they're developing, I'm sure many people listening will know that over the past few years, apprenticeships have developed into fully employer-driven approach. So aiming to meet the skills needs of businesses has been its priority aim. So for example, every apprenticeship qualification has been delivered by employers for employers. The reason that apprenticeships are so important and why we have an action plan comes down to those kind of two key points that I just mentioned. That first is that positive contribution that apprenticeships have to the economy and to business. There's evidence that for every £1 spent on an apprentice, there's £21 gained by the national economy. 74% of apprenticeships have said that, 74% of employers have said that apprentices have improved their products and service quality, and 78% have said they've improved productivity. So that's from a business point of view. And the second is the impact that an apprenticeship has on the individual itself. It enables people to earn while they learn, but it also provides a learning style which is particular and important for a lot of people, enabling them to thrive and reach their potential. And then the research suggests as well that the more loyal, likely to be more qualified and have enhanced employment prospects. So those two things together make it a real opportunity, but we do have challenges.
Well, let's just reflect for a second there. You mentioned some numbers there, 74%, 78%, effectively approval ratings and measured approval ratings. Why can't we persuade everybody that this is for them, given those kind of statistics?
You can't take away from an individual that it's a challenging way to learn because you are working at the same time. And there's just different horses for different courses.
Sure.
People just find that they work better on the job doing it as they're learning. So I think it's right to have different options, and not everyone will be suited to apprenticeships, not everyone will be suited to maybe a more academic way, but we have to have those options. Yeah.
After you, well, I was going to say, so just wonder if we could just briefly mention. You used the phrase challenges. There are challenges. What's a typical challenge met by an employer, and what's a typical response to that challenge?
Well, I think we're in unprecedented waters at the moment. We've had apprenticeship starts being hit significantly because of the pandemic. That's not surprising. And actually, there's been a reflection on younger people having greater impact on the number of starts for 24-year-olds and below. But it's not across the board. For example, education and training apprenticeships have increased in the last year. So it's a real mixed bag. There's not a typical challenge, and we have to understand the nuances of that. and sectors when they can learn from each other.
But I think I think part of the message I'm taking from that, there are challenges. They are perhaps unique to each business, or at least they can be grouped, I guess. But with that in mind, there's an awful lot that you can bring to them to manage their challenges, I guess, and it becomes more collaborative. Is that fair?
Yes, and I think we cannot take away from that Lancashire has an incredibly strong history and legacy of delivering apprenticeships. We've got a huge amount of experienced and amazing providers, colleges, the private training providers and the universities. They deliver excellent provision. They're passionate about apprenticeships, and they can and do share that good practice with each other to support businesses. It is an incredible opportunity, really, to be able to jump on some of the things that, even though we're in the pandemic. For example, maybe you'll be surprised to know that apprenticeship vacancy starts since August through to December have actually been above or equal to the number of vacancies the previous year. So we are seeing that things are changing, and Lancashire's always been strong with that, and it's about building on that legacy to grow our own. And I think, as you touched on before, Richard, the government are really backing this more than ever now, with incentives to support employers to take on apprentices. So it's about taking all those opportunities together, really pushing them.
I've got just a couple more questions for you, Lisa. And do you think it's well understood? It's something that we've been writing about for quite a while, but do you think it's something that's well understood, the breadth, where it literally is from GCSE level through to master's degree level? There's an awful lot within there, isn't there? And I wonder if that part of if you feel that part of the message needs further expansion.
I think it absolutely does, and I think that we need to challenge any misconceptions or preconceptions, and we've done so much of it, but there's still so much more to do. And I think that the best way of doing that is for employers to speak to other employers. We need to have those actual experiences and those fantastic stories. It was making me think, when I was preparing for this, about the Skills Hub sponsorship of the LBV Sub 36 Apprenticeship Award. I've been a part of judging that, so I have a number of colleagues in my team. It's incredibly difficult to choose a winner. It's astounding the positive impact that apprentice has had on that business, and we just need more stories to be told between employers, supported by us, the facilitators, to be able to say, oh, you should take on a master's apprenticeship or a higher. Well, why? Well, this person can tell you. I can tell you, but I'm not living it. But this particular employer is one of those 78% that said their productivity increase. So that's what we need to do, and we want to support that.
Well, I'm very much hoping that we'll have some of that conversation today, Lisa, with some of our guests. Last thing, briefly, if I may, what would you advise? What is a simple piece of advice to Lancashire businesses which are considering but haven't made the step yet to pick up the phone and contact yourselves or one of our great providers?
So if they're in the position where they've already thought they could be recruiting excellent, more loyal people that add value to their business, that they are using it to upskill their current people, then fantastic. The help is out there to support you every step of the way. If you've already got a link with a training provider, wonderful, use it. If not, there is help, impartial help. Just Google the Lancashire Skills Pledge, and then you can sign up to that, and we'll start the conversation.
Thanks. I'm sorry, Lisa.
No,
thanks ever so much for that. And Holly, if you could possibly put that into the chat box for people to dig out, and we'll try and add that to our roundup email at the end of the day, Lisa, where we'll be sharing some of these key contacts with people. But in the meantime, Lisa, can I thank you ever so much? And ladies and gentlemen, in your pajamas and in your chairs and however you are consuming today's entertainment, would you please give it up for Lisa Moiser? Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you very much.
Now, next up is our first panel of business people and skills providers. And our theme for this panel is how we can bridge the skills gaps that we have now, and how we predict and fulfil our future requirements. So would you please welcome from the skills providers, Dave Walker, who's the Managing Director of Plus 24 Academy in Burnley. We have Neil Burrows, who's the Director of Themis and Assistant Principal of Burnley College. We have Rowena Bruff, who's the Head of Work-Based Learning at Nelson and Cone College. And from the world of businesses, with us is Neil Ainsworth, Director of Wave Internet, and Chris Baldwin, who's the Managing Director of Sugden, CFE Lighting and Baldwin Technical Solutions. Good morning and welcome to you all. You are all welcome to be here. Thanks very much. If I can come to you, Neil Burrows, Assistant Principal at Burnley College and your connections with Themis. Neil, I wonder, what do you see as our urgent skills priorities, and what priorities have you right now as a provider of skills?
I think, good morning everyone. I think Lisa was right. The collaboration and the conjunction of working with employees is critical. I think if we look at the skills for jobs white paper that's just been released, that's part of the drive forward. I think it's really important. And just a summary of that, the part of that is putting them employees first and putting the employees at the heart of skills. I think that's critical, and making sure that the employees and the providers collaborate and work together to make sure that the skills are delivered that's needed. And again, the white paper delivering those higher level technical skills, and we'll talk about that, the skills gaps, digital, etc. And it also mentions about the training providers being responsive, whether that's curriculum, whether that's specialisation in those skills. And I think that's critical as well. And it's not just the employees working with awarding bodies, making sure that the awarding bodies have that understanding of what the businesses need as well. Because it's all right, training providers, colleges, having that collaboration and trying to provide that service and that responsiveness. But if the qualifications, and it's not all about the qualifications, it's that specialism of maybe bolt-on qualifications and modules. We're speaking with City and Guilds at the minute, and we're trying to look at different ways of delivering that curriculum, getting employees involved in digital skills and having smaller chunks of models of qualifications and bite size that we can get the employees to work with the providers to deliver those specialised skills. And obviously, outstanding teaching as well. We've got to get those industry specialist masterclasses, and it's all that collaboration, Richard, that'll drive us forward.
And that's the sense I get, Neil, is this collaborative approach. And Rowena, may I ask you, how far do you agree with Neil there about the collaborative approach? And what do you feel are the skills priorities that you need to focus on right now, Rowena?
Okay, yeah, I think totally the collaborative approach. I feel part of the legacy. I've been around quite a while, and that's been apprenticeships for 20 years now. So I think for me, the key to all of this is the employee relationship. We need to work with them and at a strategic level, from the top, because they're doing the business planning, they know their future and they're developing their brand, their company, and working in line with the changes. So it's absolutely crucial that we are part of that strategic thinking, working with them. And then we can, if you think back to 2017 was the whole reform change, and employers contributed to that. So we're actually ahead of the game. Employers are feeding us the information, they're telling us what they require. And I think, in education, we're very we're very proactive, and we're planning and working with them employers. So we know what the needs are. The standards, we're now offering over, I think, 65 standards at the moment in choice with the reform. So
can I just ask you, if I may, the 65 standards, mm-hmm. What are standards in the context of a business that's not engaged with apprenticeships before?
Yeah, no problem. They changed the standards are linked to the skills and knowledge and behaviour development. Very much come away, as Neil said, from the qualification side. So it's actually developing an individual for the wider society and developing their skills right from behaviours, linking to the behaviours, the knowledge element, the theory, the qualification. But the most important, which we need to work with employees, is that skills development on that job. And it's an end test at the end. So obviously we're testing that throughout their learning period and journey. You're confirming that learning with an external provider, an awarding body at the end, to prove you've got that competent person who's developed the skills throughout their time.
Thank you very much. Dave Walker, if I can come to you, you sit on both sides here. You're a provider of skills, but you're also a provider of services to businesses. And I wonder if, Dave, you could reflect on this for me, that there are huge changes in businesses. They're really rapid. Businesses are changing because their customers are changing. How disruptive is this in terms of planning future skills? And what do you bring to the party, Dave?
Okay, hi Richard. I think businesses are changing, and what we have to offer is changing very rapidly. But I don't think it's changing in an unexpected way. I think businesses have been working towards the digitalisation and various other modernisations, of their processes for many years. I think what the recent situation has brought about is just an acceleration of that change. It's very interesting, but I think businesses have known what they've got to do for some time. I'm very fortunate that I sit on the industry side where we provide a service to people. But because of the digital skills gap, that inspired us to get involved in the training side, working with other providers, Neil and many others that we have done in recent times. We're a massive believer in apprenticeships, and we firmly believe that is one of the ways that particularly the digital skills gap can be plugged. But I'm guessing skills gaps across, all industries.
Thanks. If I can come to you, Chris Baldwin, you're manager at the three businesses that I'm aware of. Anyway, you've got 3, 7, 8-figure businesses there. Can you tell us about your approach to apprenticeships and how apprenticeships have been probably an opportunity for you and a challenge as well? I've lost him, haven't I? Chris Baldwin. I've lost your volume, Chris. Chris?
Better?
Yes, we've got you, Chris. Thanks very much. Let me let again. Yes, Chris. We've heard there that Dave thinks that businesses have been aware that changes have come in. Our college friends are very collaborative in their approach to apprenticeships. You have a number of businesses, and I wonder if you could just give us a background on what apprenticeships bring to your outfits.
Well, in total, we employ roughly about 80 people throughout the three companies. And at present, we have over 25 of the 80 are homegrown apprentices. So without the apprenticeship schemes, we would really struggle with personnel, with skill set, etc. So, we try and employ an apprentice in each company one a year. And some years we do miss because we have to balance with youth and experience, etc. But we try, we do endeavour to recruit every year at least one apprentice per company.
That sounds like you have a personal dedication towards the idea, Chris. Is that fair?
I do. I was an apprentice myself, apprentice electrician back in the day, and we see them flourish in the company. And one of them, Sean, is now a director of the business. He started as an apprentice, is now a director of Bowling Technical. Grant has done a degree, is now heading in projects at Sugden, and they have we have a real family feel, from coming from school really, and young kids. We have a really good relationship with Training 2000, so I think it's a good move where they disappear really from school to Training 2000 for a year. We don't see them really, so they get really good habits with health and safety, etc. They come back to us, then we go on day release, and we assess their skill set and then point them in the right direction of HNC or degree or which direction they want to go into.
Reflecting back to when 4 or 5 years ago, Chris, when you were doing your apprenticeship, when you were doing, how do you think things have changed in the world of apprenticeships? And my overriding sense is this idea that the employers and the colleges and the other skills providers, they talk, because you can't just go, I think you need to be learning this in 3 years' time. They need to talk to people like you. That's my sense. What's your overriding sense of how things have changed?
It's more organised, and like I say, we do converse with the providers, interact on a monthly basis. Really, come in, assess. And sometimes they may have difficulties, personal, or work related, and we work as a group to overcome any issues at all the apprentice may have. And they might be really technical minded. So we may push them down more the drawing office side, or they're really practical. So they want to keep on the fabrication or assembly side and you know, advance the career in the best for that person themselves. You know, everyone, it's not, you know, one fits all. It's, you've got to adapt, listen to them and what they actually want. There's no point pushing someone in the direction they don't want to go in. So
I think that's what's coming out of this as well, is that so we are talking about range and breadth, and you're talking about levels of qualifications. If I can come to you, Neil Ainsworth at Wave Internet. And Neil, first of all, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about how you adopt apprenticeship into your business and the kind of roles they perform.
Yeah, so we're a tech business involved in telecommunications and developing new software for communications. So obviously, what's happened over the last 12 months has really fast-tracked awareness about what we're doing. So we were running a very lean company, and then we realized with the interest, everybody wanted the internet, everybody wanted super fast, we wanted it in our sheds, etc., etc., etc. And you know, unfortunately, the infrastructure that's there wasn't capable of giving people what they wanted. So I personally decided to look for an apprentice, a trainee, and I was very passionate about the role, in that I'm an investor and I saw this as a huge investment. So speaking to lots of other people in business, the views of apprentices was, yeah, some very old-fashioned views.
Views about apprentices?
Yeah, about, you know, how they work and what have you, which fortunately I dismissed. And I wanted to create a job spec that got me excited. So yeah, when I was creating the job spec, I wanted to apply for it. The difficulty came, and I'll be quite honest about this, we started from zero knowledge. So we were the perfect example of haven't got a clue, how do I get an apprentice? And the type of person or the type of role that we had required a different type of person that was readily available. So we finished up, we tried everything locally, and we just couldn't find a suitable person. So, you know, we finished up having to go out of Lancashire, which is unfortunate, but we got someone, or we got three actually. We only wanted one, but we finished up with three.
I've just been shopping. I brought loads back.
yeah. Well, that's me. I couldn't let them go, because
What is it bringing to you? I mean, if I can, sort of, how do you see in the kind of the medium to longer term, Neil? Neil Ainsworth, how do you see the skills conversations that you're having? How will they change, do you think?
I think locally, trying to get apprentices that have, I mean, we're not looking for, you know, you got to have this, that, and the other. I'm looking at blank sheets of paper. That's the best thing for me. A blank sheet of paper with a nugget of interest. And my main remit was, I just wanted someone with some zap, and I use that word. I want zap.
Rowena, can we have a standard for zap? Is that possible?
And
unfortunately, someone with vavavoom, that's what we want.
And unfortunately, the more I mentioned zap, the more I got some blank expressions coming back. But then it just proves, if you persevere,
Welcome to Lancashire.
Yeah, if you persevere, you get there. And I got three zappers.
Right.
And we're looking for more zappers.
Hold that thought. Neil Burrows, there is something in this conversation. It's not just about zapping and zappers. We're talking about really specific needs that need filling, I think. I'm going to translate that. The zapper is the right person at the right time. How do you again, because this is about skills that are changing over time. How do you find the zappers? Because that's what we all want, isn't it? I'm sorry, I've got to say this. Neil Ainsworth, I'd just like to thank, ladies and gentlemen, everybody thank Neil Ainsworth for giving us the headline. It's all about the zappers. But moving swiftly on, and sticking back to you, Neil Burrows, the zappers, how do we manage this? How do we shape it so that the zappers are coming forwards for us?
That's exactly right. It's about shaping the way that we recruit, the way that we educate these young people, and to get them, inspire them, and get them to aspire to want different careers. Rowena talked about the standards. The standards are set. The standards are written by trailblazer groups, a lot of the big employees, your BAEs, your Rolls Royces, your Siemens. We're talking Lancashire, we're talking SMEs, we're talking providing young people to get them excited to go and work in these businesses. And how we do that is critical. We do a lot of that work, as do every provider. We're working with, collaboration between employers, but it's collaboration between providers as well, to make sure that these young people are. I'll give you an example. So we're working in, let's say, our engineering division at Burnley College. Probably like every engineering division in every college in Lancashire, you have your open nights, you have your review nights. You bring these young people in. They see the CNC machines, they see this, that, and the other. But some of them don't want to stand on a machine and manufacture something. They want to be inspired. They want to make that CNC machine talk to a robot and all that kind of stuff. And so we look at, the standards are there, but let's give them that enrichment and that enhancement. Let's get them talking to employers. We're setting up advisory boards, digital advisory boards with employers, but not just people that are having that digital conversation. We're bringing manufacturers in from food and drink, from automation, and we're having them conversations so that we can then go back to these young people, to parents, and say, look, there is an opportunity to work with our great employers in Lancashire by doing this.
It's a misunderstood opportunity as well. I mean, I speak at schools occasionally and try to explain the opportunities that are available for young people in work, and literally some of them, it frustrates me that the lack of awareness about some of the incredible employers that we have, all of which are serviced by apprenticeships as far as I can see. Dave Walker, your particular interest is in the digital environment. So I guess, do you see the skills conversation moving into more of that digital environment, or am I running away with it a bit?
Well, just to put some context to that, 82% of all jobs advertised require digital skills. So we have to have, I think Neil was touching base on that there, where he's talking about manufacturing, but digital is required in every single job role now. Pretty much, 82% of all jobs advertised require a digital skill. There's a massive digital skills gap in the UK, and it's estimated that that's costing us 63 billion in GDP every single year. Now, that is a lot of money. Imagine what that can do to our economic recovery coming out of COVID. So if we do, but particularly sort of aim to fix this digital skills gap, then it will have a positive impact, I believe, on every single industry.
I think I can feel that. And Rowena, to you, let's just go back to the zappers a second, because if we want to attract today's zappers, we know that Neil can do that over at Wave. He's working hard on that. What about tomorrow's zappers? What do we need to do to ensure that we change in order to attract the right people into these apprenticeships to support our Lancashire businesses? Rowena?
I think we need to, it's the kind of minefield out there, and as Neil said, we have the open evenings, careers events. I think it's educating them from a school, from an options age. Even prior, I've known, colleges and schools were going into, the primary schools to try and give them an understanding of the future careers, and inviting parents in, because the parents understand, because we know what we know now, but, in 10, 20 years time, you look how the industry, has changed. I think we've got to educate the offer that we're offering. I think very, very clear career paths, look at the actual job roles and then map out how they can they want to be a doctor, or they want to go into the engineering. As Neil said, the industry is changing, so it's guiding them along a career path. And it's not just, again, bear in mind, we've got school leavers, but you've also got people who are upskilling or reskilling. So they'll come in the journey at a certain point of education, at the time in their life or their age, and it's ensuring which pathway they can take and educating those as well, and making it a clear pathway. I think that's the bit that we need to do in Lancashire.
Thank you very much. And Chris Baldwin, coming back to you, how far do you feel you can shape the output of your apprenticeship programme in terms of I guess it's more the inputs, isn't it? It's what can you bring to an apprenticeship that suits your businesses? How far are you able to shape those conversations, Chris Baldwin?
I think it starts when they're at school. I think we deal, as I said, we deal with Training 2000. They have conversations with year 11 students and see what pathway they want to go down. Do they want to go in an engineering role or administration or design? So it starts from there. Then, and I think it's a really good idea if they have some sort of work experience with us. They get a week with us. You can see on a daily basis what the job entails, and try and go out throughout the firm, from machine shop to fabrication, assembly, design, and see what they fancy doing. At the end of the day, that's the most important. You want to do something you want to enjoy, and then from then we obviously they've got to be want to be intelligent enough to go down whichever route they want to go down. In a design engineer, it might need more qualifications than maybe a fabricator. It's a different skill set. So you have to assess, have close conversations with Training 2000 or the provider, and make sure it's a good fit.
Thanks for that. I mean, I must admit that feels very much like a phrase my dad uses. So cheers for this, Dad, if you're watching. It's not about doing what you like, Richard. It's about liking what you do. And I kind of like that. And that kind of feels then. I've got a bunch of questions, ladies and gentlemen, in from our audience. I'll just check with this one. Is there an age range on apprenticeship? Is there an age cap on apprenticeships? Anybody? Perhaps Rowena, you could answer that for me.
Absolutely not. No, yeah. We can reskill, upskill. There is no age, full stop.
So that's for our friend Jacqueline. There literally is no age. How can different companies' specific needs be met in a relevant and coherent way by curriculum leaders and curriculum team? How do we make curriculum work for all employers? I'm going to throw that one to. I'm going to throw that one to Neil Burrows, if I may. How do we make it? This is from Tamur Shafiq of Wigan and Lee College, who's looking for top tips, I reckon.
I think it's again we talked about it earlier. It's that collaboration with awarding bodies, getting awarding bodies to speak to not just training providers and colleges, but also businesses as well. I know they're trying and they're dying to speak to employees at awarding bodies. Yeah. And sometimes they struggle to do that. They can speak, like I mentioned, the big boys. They can speak to the big boys, but again, it's the SMEs that they need that conversation with. So and the collaboration between providers and we should be bringing the awarding body people to the employees and to ourselves. Get everybody in a room. Let's talk. Let's look at that curriculum. We've all got to do that curriculum. We've got to do that, and we stay by that, and that's should be a bread and butter. But it's that specialisation and what can awarding bodies support them employees to create new quals, different quals, industry-led quals, and that's that importance of them awarding bodies.
I'm going to thank you very much for that. Another question in from Lisa Sourbuts of Cube HR will be joining us shortly. Lisa asks, this is a good question. Dave, can you take this one? Dave Walker. How do we support employers working from home, but would like to take on apprentices? You've got this home working environment for apprenticeships. How can we manage that, Dave?
Well, I've got to say it's made it more difficult. We employ apprentices, every year, pretty much. And similar to some of the other speakers, about a third of our workforce has come through our own apprenticeship sort of training, if you will. It has become a lot more difficult, but the reality is that we're going to have to get used to this, and we have to embrace technology. The one great thing about the younger generation, of course, is that they're used to the technology. And one thing about this COVID thing is that actually we're putting our kids through it as well. They're all currently homeworking, staring at screens, like we're all doing. And so actually, silver light in the cloud, silver lining in the cloud, the kids are actually going to be fairly well prepared for this when they come out of school and college over the next few years, because they'll have been thrown into it. So I think it's about embracing technology, but also being very empathetic. What other support mechanisms can you put in place in a safe environment?
Thank you very much. And this is a question from Karen Starker, but I'm going to ask if Karen's keen to understand sample framework. So I think we'll put that to Holly, if we can perhaps put that in our roundup to our email afterwards. that question. Maybe our providers might be able to help Karen with that question there. But I'm going to move us on, I think, because I've got one last question. And can you be as brief as possible? We're going to go run around the table with this. And it's a simple question. The question is, if there was one initiative you could implement over the next 12 months in relation to apprenticeships, what would it be? Neil Burrows.
Oh, wow. Again, probably it's a collaboration, and I keep speaking about collaboration, but getting people together, looking at enhancement, enrichment of those standards that are already there with that curriculum.
Understood. Thank you, Dave Walker. One thing, one initiative you could implement in relation to apprenticeships. What would it be?
Well, if I can't say Plus 24 Academy, then I would say it's to encourage more industry to get involved in the education process. SMEs in particular. Neil's highlighted it.
Thank you very much. Gold star to Plus 24 Academy, also known for doing a bit of marketing. Good job. And Rowena Brough, one initiative over the next.
I've got 5. I'm innovative. I'll give you me one. I think we've got a 200% increase on applicants of apprenticeships compared to last year. So I think that's to be said. So for me, it'd be the employer incentive that's out there, the £3,000 to take on apprentice is only valid till the 31st of March. The ideal would be once we get back out there and businesses start running, you know, like the practical hairs, dressing, the beauty, them kind of areas that we can actually extend that to ensure that offers there for employers to encourage them to support the apprenticeship programmes.
Thank you very much.
Neil, I'll give you another 4, I'll hold them.
That's all. We're all good with that, Rowena. Stick it on an email. We'll send it to everybody. Neil Ainsworth, if you had an initiative, what would it be?
Tell them about Zap.
Tell them about Zap. Don't say another word because it'll ruin it. You've already won this conversation with the Zap. So tell them about the Zap. And final word goes to our friend, Mr. Chris Baldwin of Sugden CFE Lighting on Baldwin Technical Solutions. Mr. Baldwin, if you could wave your magic wand for apprenticeships and go, ping, that's what it is. What would that thing be?
I think a bit more interaction with the providers from the companies, possibly an open day at the business, so the providers can bring maybe 10 to 20 applicants coming through, walk them through the company, all the procedures from order to execution, and give them an insight what engineering is all about, because they're at school and they don't have that opportunity. And I think it's critical they go into their career eyes wide open to see exactly what they want to do and hopefully enjoy it.
Absolutely fantastic. What a great response that is. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry, Chris, I think you're going to get battered by a bunch of providers now who are going to jump on that idea. There's going to be, look at Neil Burrows and Rowena and Dave. They've all been making notes, right? Factory tours. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please give it up for our first panel? They have been enormously entertaining. Thanks ever so much for your time. For our second panel, we have briefed our speakers to focus on something slightly different. Excuse me. And that is on the breadth of businesses and sectors, I guess connected a little bit to the standards Rowena mentioned earlier. So it's the breadths of businesses, the sectors which can adopt apprenticeships, and the huge range of subjects available. So please would you welcome from the skills providers, Linda Dean, who's Executive Director of Blackpool and the Fylde College for Business. Gareth Lindsay is Managing Director of the North Lancs Training Group. Jimmy King is Managing Director of Pierce Chartered Accountants. And representing businesses today, Mark Edwards, Operations Director at Serion. And from UPS Building and Maintenance, would you welcome Chief Exec Andrew Wood. Welcome to you all, and you are all very welcome. Andrew, can I come straight to you, Andrew at UPS? Andrew, what do apprenticeships bring to your business? How have you made them part of the day-to-day? I'm asking you 9 questions at once here, but all the same, I'm going for it. What do they bring to your business? Day-to-day operations. How do they benefit? What are your challenges? What are the wins? What are the losses? What are the ultimate gains for you, Andrew Wood?
Good morning, Richard. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I mean, apprentices are everything to us. I've been an apprentice myself. I'm massively passionate about it. They bring sustainability to our business. They bring us growth. They give us sustainability for the future, great progression. And you know, I've been in business 13 years now and started from myself and an apprentice, and we've always had at least 10%, maybe even 15 at times, of apprentices within our businesses. They are, I can't, you know, be as positive as much as I can be about having apprentices within your business. They really are an amazing. I don't think we would be here where we are today without them. Just to be able to mold an apprentice to your values, to the way you work, and it's you know, I can't speak highly enough of it.
What about challenges, Andrew? It can't all be perfect.
No, it's not. And I think one of the biggest challenges we have in construction is, you know, when an apprentice comes out of school and they've done 2 years of an MVQ and they think they're a fully qualified tradesman after 2 years, that we have a difficult stage between that 18 and 21 where they can be able to, you know, sort of gained all those life experiences that they need to be a tradesman. I find that the difficult period, sort of when they finish the 2-year MVQ level 2, to actually getting them out onto site on their own. And that is the one of the challenging parts that we find.
Typically, Andrew, what kind of age are you talking about for this group?
Well, we generally take from school leaver, and generally the apprentice in construction is normally 2 years, maybe 3 years if they go on to an MVQ level 3, but generally 2 years with most trades.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, what were you like when you were 19?
Disaster.
Mark, can I switch over to Mark Edwards from you're the Ops Director at Serian. Can you tell us a little bit about how apprenticeships have been part of your business?
Yeah, they're integral, to be honest. We have a promote from within strategy, and we've had that for many years. We've taken on apprentices for a long time now, actually for 10 or so years. And what's been massively critical is they come in at circa 18. Relating to the previous panel, actually, we look for that enthusiasm or zap that makes a big difference. And they form the part of growth for everyone else. They learn what's happening within the business. We've got quite a linear career trajectory in IT and technology, and it helps everyone else as well as the apprentices move forward. They learn their skills and trade on the job and with the colleges, and it does generally make a positive impact on employee engagement.
Thanks. What about your challenges, Mark?
Yeah, we learned very quickly there needs to be good management time within the business to support the apprentices. It's critical. If you don't get that, then the chance of success does diminish over time. So we allocate specific amounts of time out of everyone's day to help the apprentices work through what they need to do for college work, and also for the vendor and supplier qualifications we push them towards. And the biggest challenge we've had, in all honesty, is just finding the right people, finding that enthusiasm that they want to learn, they want to progress past. We take them on about 18 years old, so they're starting out in their career and they want to grow into technology and IT.
Thank you. Linda Dean, if I can come to you. We've deliberately selected two businesses to talk to us on this panel who were very, very different kinds of businesses. One operates in construction, one operates in IT services. And that's just a small example of the breadth. Could you perhaps give us a little bit more of a sense of the range of subjects and how you work with businesses to develop what's right for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, you've already said that the range is across level 2 to level 7. I mean, as of this morning, there were 744 standards that are actually available to be delivered, and that's a changing and flexing picture as well. So that gives a sense at a headline level of the numbers there. And you're looking at, sort of anything from payroll manager to people professional. We know through the CMI's recent report, being well led and well managed through this crisis is one of the things that have set businesses apart. So there's a range of qualifications in that management and professional space. But equally, we've had construction, we've had digital analysts. So going back to the earlier panel, 82% of jobs are looking for digital skills. And then we've got health, automotive, hospitality. So some of the sectors probably that businesses are a wee bit more familiar with. And then across cyber, artificial intelligence, data security. So moving into that space as well. And I think in terms of how that's delivered, you know, we mentioned this a lot. I know Gary's going to say exactly the same. It's about collaboration.
I'll ask him a different question.
Partnership. It's about co-creation. So yes, we have a standard. We've got 744 of them, and they have been developed by a group of employers. And that's a real mixed group of employers. But what we then do, we work in partnership and we take that standard, and be it Andrew's company or Mark's, we say, actually, how does this fit and look for you? So we've got the knowledge, skills and behaviours that the sector, the industry is saying is right for this standard. But then we have a conversation about, but what does this look like on a Wednesday in your company? And actually for that apprentice, what does it look like for their journey? Because every person will be starting at a different point. So there's a standard, and we can have comfort and assurance we're meeting the standard required, but within that there's some personalisation. I think that's, as Gareth I'm sure will agree, it's the joy and beauty of apprenticeships. And that's why we've got such an investment in it from government. I mean, there's little else that government will actually pay 95% towards anything. And also government have recognised how that plays back into GDP. Hence, as Neil said earlier in the first panel, the recent white paper, which is very much about the difference technical professional education makes at level 4 and level 5.
Lily, can I just ask you this about, so sectors and businesses? You're Blackpool and the Fylde College. You have a particular kind of economy even in the Lancashire environment. You've got a manufacturing, but you've got that big tourism side of what you do as well. And I suppose this is about tailoring. Do you specialise in the specific requirements of your local economy?
Absolutely, yes. And we're a community college, and that's where we are and where we are facing. I mean, some of the employers that we work with have got a national or a regional presence, but absolutely. So, you know, we have curriculum planning on an annual basis where we're actually feeding in information, intelligence internally, externally, speaking to employers, taking the data from the LEP, you know, taking the data, the wider data from McKinsey, what industry, what sectors are doing. And each, you know, clearly we've got specialists in each sector who are saying, actually, from a construction perspective, we're looking at modern methods. We're looking, you know, we're looking at hydrogen boilers, I believe, at some point in the future. So it's not just about the things that employers need now. There is an immediacy, but what might sectors and employers be asking us for in 2, 3, 5 years' time? But yeah, absolutely, it's employer driven and led.
Thank you. And I wondered, Gareth, if I can bring you in here now to contrast. You're managing director of North Lancs Training Group. That's been around 40, 50 years, I think. But I think I'm right in saying NLTG, North Lancs Training Group, grew out of, was it the furniture industry, those requirements, Gareth? So a very different approach. Can you tell us a little bit about that? You're not a college, you're a slightly different kind of provider, but a little bit about that and how you adapt to the new requirements of your customers, Gareth.
Yeah, sure. Morning, everyone. Yeah, we grew out of the furniture industry, so that's one of our specialisms at the minute, and we have furniture manufacturing centres of excellence that we train apprentices in. But it was quite, over the 50 years we've been in existence, we've had to adapt, we've had to diversify into different skills areas, because of course that's how businesses grow, and that was the needs of our employers and the local economy as well. So now we deliver a real wide range of apprenticeships, right through from the service industries to all the manufacturing industries and so on. But it is very much, just one point I wanted to make, I was trying to think of a different word to collaboration, because, you know, everybody's mentioning collaboration, but partnership's another, another word we could use. But I think a key point to raise here is the idea of collaboration between providers and colleges as well. You know, when we're talking about the skills needs of the county, you know, I've been in, similar to Rowena in the previous panel, I've been in the sector for many, many years now, and I think there's never been a better time for collaboration between providers, colleges, universities, to make sure that we meet the skills needs of the county, you know, and meet those needs. And if somebody comes to North Lancs Training Group, for example, and wants us to develop an apprenticeship strategy for them, if we can't help with every part of that, then now we know somebody who can, and we can involve a college or a partnership provider to make sure that, you know, they get exactly what they need. So,
and is that, do you think that's an evolving thing? I think perhaps if you were to cast your mind back, you got the sense of a competitive landscape. I'm not saying that's gone entirely, but do you get the sense now of, well, if I can't quite manage it, that person over there will be able to give me this bit and we're sorted. Is that how it feels to you? Because that to me sounds like putting the business first rather than the provider first.
Yeah, 100%. Of course, there's competitive market out there, and we're a private company, and at the end of the day, we want to make money, we want to be successful. But we're all in this game, this sector for the right reasons. We all enter the education market to make sure that young people and people of all ages got the right opportunities and the right skills. So I just think it's a real key point to make, and for any employers that are listening, whichever provider you or college you contact and work with, there is that collaboration going out there that we can meet all your needs really. And the work of the Lancashire Forum, the Lancashire Colleges, and the Skills Advisory Panel, which I sit on for the LEP as well, that work of those bodies is fantastic in generating that collaboration.
Thank you very much.
As I say, that we meet those skills needs.
Thanks for that, Gareth. Jimmy, if I come, Jimmy King, you're MD at Pierce Chartered Accountants, and you're sitting on the provider side here as a sponsor of this event. So thank you for that. But I wonder what's your approach to apprenticeships, and I'm interested in the professional skills level approach that you might take, Jimmy.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I think what's quite surprising when you look at our profession, the accountancy profession, is the range of apprenticeships that actually we've used in our business. We've gone for level 2, level 3 apprenticeships at sort of an admin level, and those apprentices have developed through our system. For instance, our current payroll bureau manager was an apprentice, our IT manager was apprentice. So there's sort of those sort of qualifications, but also recently, in recent years, it's been possible to do the chartered qualification through an apprenticeship route. And when you think of the chartered accountancy qualification historically, you perhaps would never have aligned that with doing that through an apprenticeship route. But currently you can, and I think that's been excellent because it has brought the wider skills as opposed to just the studying aspect, and brought that breadth of experience to the students as well.
Now, Jimmy, your Pierce is a chartered accountancy practice, but I think it would be better. Let's look at the other side of the business. It's a business advisory practice as well. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, as business advisors, what do you say to clients? How, you will have the conversations, because I have the conversations with my accountant about skills and problems and challenges and opportunities. How do you talk to your clients when it comes to this? Well, I tell you what. Have you thought about apprenticeships?
Yeah, well, I think there's two things. I think someone on the last session alluded to the fact that there's currently the incentive to take on an apprenticeship, an apprentice, and the financial aspect of that. And I think the lady in the previous asked for that to be extended if possible, which would be great. But also, I think it's the investment in the apprentice and how it can help bring an enthusiasm to your team, which is infectious. Also sort of that willingness to learn and that desire to learn, which can spread to other team members, and also with an apprentice, I think it's important that you quite often get them at the beginning of a career, so you can very much mould them to how your business runs, to how your business works, and that can increase productivity and effectiveness as well.
Thanks, Linda. If I can come back to you, I'm fascinated here actually by this idea of size and scale, and I think one of the things that perhaps if I look back at our early days as a magazine and I look at the way we handled the skills conversation, it's changed massively. But in the early days, it was almost always skills from the perspective of blue collar or manual jobs. Those skills are much wider, and I get the sense now an apprenticeship seems to be following it. How important is it that we go beyond the obvious in terms of apprenticeships?
I think critical. I mean, for the reasons Lisa shared when we started this, which is for every pound the government invests, you get £21 back. I mean, that's a UK PLC thing, but clearly that flows through to business. And the other reason, the data Lisa shared, 78%, 80% of employers are seeing productivity and are seeing a creativity or a zap or a dynamic in their business that they wouldn't have otherwise got. And that technical professional apprenticeship route is obviously contributing to that. And I think it's critical. I mean, it's not as, like, you know, we've discussed before, it's not the only strand in your workforce plan as a business that you're looking at. But it's certainly a significant strand in terms of bringing new, you know, succession planning, bringing new people into the organisation, bringing new skill sets in, bringing new views and a new lens in, as well as that reskilling and upskilling for the team that you may have, where you're looking for increased and stronger management, or you're looking for more digital skills. I think health has been really interesting in terms of that digitally health agenda that's now going on. You know, what that means, and again, how apprenticeships can contribute and play a part in that. But yeah, I mean, it goes back to we're at 744 standards. I don't know what Gareth thinks, you know, that they are led by employers. So if there is a need and a group of employers comes together, then more will be looked at. But I think there's two things for me really, which is, you know, really appreciating the value of technical and professional education across. And also that piece where, you know, we're clear that apprenticeships, and it's been said, you know, are for somebody else's children, or are for young people who can't quite, you know, aren't able to go to university to achieve a higher level, or need to go into the trades, whilst not appreciating A, they're all valuable careers, and B, people learn and bloom and grow in different ways. And some things, yeah, absolutely, you know, if you want to go to university, that's the right thing for you, great, but there are alternatives.
Can I ask, this is a question to Gareth and to Linda. Are there any business sectors or types of business which can't use apprenticeships?
No.
That'll do. A simple no will do me fine. Linda? No, that's fine, because that's what I'm trying to get to. The point I'm trying to get to here is literally every business. It's valid for you. I would like to go back to a question I asked the previous panel. I'm kind of liking this question, so this is going to theme through. So the question is, if you could bring forward an initiative for apprenticeships and skills, what would that be? I'm going to ask each of you, and I'm going to start with Linda Dean. If you could bring forward an initiative for apprenticeships and skills, what would it be?
So I think we've got young people who are interested, we've got standards that are written, we've got funding from the government. The big thing that will make the difference is SMEs. So it's not a specific initiative, but SMEs actually engaging will make the most difference.
The vast majority of our businesses in Lancashire SMEs, you know these stats as well as I do, somewhere between 55 and 70,000 businesses in Lancashire, depending on which measure you use. What percentage of those do we think, Gareth, are adopting apprenticeships? Do we know?
In terms of the number of SMEs actually engaged?
What's our engagement? Do we know?
I couldn't give you a percentage, Richard, but I would say, you know, a large number of them, an increasing number of them. But in order to help that, my initiative would be to, I totally agree about extending the incentives, but the main one, I would get rid of the 5% contribution from SMEs, so that they weren't contributing, even if that was for a shorter period of time to help recovery from the pandemic.
Is this a reference to the apprenticeship levy, Gareth?
Well, the apprenticeship levy is slightly different. Anybody with a pay bill over 3 million will pay the levy anyway.
Yeah.
But SMEs currently, they have to pay 5% of the apprenticeship cost. That isn't a vast amount, but I think if you just psychologically, if you took that away, that would help as well with recruitment.
There we go. We'll send that message off to Rishi later on. Jimmy King, same question to you. An initiative for apprenticeships and skills, what would it be? Preferably, if we can say, and this will help Lancashire business.
I think awareness. I think, whilst I say initiative, I think awareness generally, really, of the benefits of apprenticeships, or breadth of apprenticeships, and it's about getting those message to employers who perhaps do not realise the scale and quality of apprenticeships available.
Thanks, and I think referencing all three answers that we've had from those providers there, Mark Edwards, Andrew Wood, the pressure's on you because you guys are the exemplars. I think it's you guys that are asking to carry. They can tell all we like, but I think it's the peer-to-peer stuff that you guys bring to the table. So, Mark Edwards, if you could bring forward an initiative, what would it be?
I'll echo some of the comments, but the biggest thing that we would appreciate, I suppose, from an employer is closer integration into the providers. We do have very good relationships, I must stress, but we can always do more. And we like to plan earlier in the cycle. So we're leading up to it. So we're already planning now for our next round of apprentices. So an initiative to engage with SMEs earlier would help us.
Very nice. Thank you very much. And final word to you, Mr. Wood, Mr. Andrew Wood of UPS Building and Maintenance. If you could bring forward an initiative for apprenticeships and skills, what would that be?
Yeah, I'd have to say I've got to agree with Mark. You know, we need that better integration, and we're the same. We're ready to take our next batch. And someone mentioned it before, to be able to have an open day where we can invite people and get them to come to our business and show them what our business is about and show them the progression, to be able to find that zap rather than just getting the odd applicant getting sent here and there to interview would definitely be the key for us, I think.
Thanks, Andrew. I think there's a message coming through here. It sounds to me like the collaboration is starting, but conversations can never go far enough. And I think the more conversations we can have, the better. Last thing, Linda Dean, can I just ask you this? We've talked about range of apprenticeships. Is there an apprenticeship? Could I be an apprentice video interviewer, please? Is there a course for that?
Yeah, we could come with digital marketing, you thinking, Gareth? So yeah, there we go.
Guys,
got you sorted.
If there isn't yet, Richard, I'm sure there will be soon. Definitely.
Right, we're on it, guys. I'll leave that in your capable hands. In the meantime, you lot can go. It's been an sorry. What I should say is thank you ever so much for your insight and wisdom, everybody. As we move on to the next section of our event, and because now we're going to meet the leaders of two organisations which could not be much more different on paper, but they do share this. They share a passion for developing skills in their workplaces through apprenticeships. Jane Cole, first of all, is Managing Director of Blackpool Transport, an award-winning bus and tram operator for Blackpool and the Fylde Coast, and an excellent employer. Jane is also President of the North West Lancashire Chamber of Commerce for now, and she's a non-exec board member of the Blackpool and Fylde College. Yazia Ahmed is Director of Strategy and Organisational Development at Rockier Tiles, Bathrooms and Kitchens. Yazia is an award-winning entrepreneur. He's a CLAW Social Leadership Programme Fellow, and he is also a trustee on the board of the British Red Cross. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our very busy two guests here. You are from enormously different backgrounds, so I'd like to just ask you, but in turn, please. Let's start with you, Jane. How do you consider apprenticeships and skills as part of not just a skills strategy, but your overall business strategy?
Oh, thanks for inviting me today. For me, it starts before you even start thinking about apprenticeships. I think you really have to think about how you can immerse yourself in the landscape of where your business actually trades.
Jane, can I just stop you for 1 second? Could I ask you just to perhaps lean forward a touch, or just speak a little more louder than you're comfortable speaking? And honestly, you'll come across even more brilliantly.
Okay, so for me, Richard, it starts in the landscape where you actually run your business. And that's where you immerse yourself into the talent that's going to be around in a couple of years' time. So I came to Blackpool Transport in 2014, and in 2014 there were people in this organisation who just knew how to mechanically repair antique items. What we have now in 2021 is a business that is, more technical, innovative. We've got to think about, the global crisis that we've got at the moment. And in the last 6 years that I've been here, things have changed so much that we've had to say to ourselves, with a workforce, with a demographic of an average age of 45, how do we keep the skills that we need and we've got? And how do we change? How do we, keep up with times? So for me, the big question in my organisation was, well, at my age, can I do this? And we've had to find a vehicle where we know that we're going to get lots of support for the people that work for us.
Was it a big tram? Oh, sorry. Was that vehicle a big tram? Jokes don't work on here sometimes. I'll move on. Sorry, fellas. Sorry, everybody.
It was a juggernaut. Anyway, So we partnered with Blackpool and Fylde College. We've done lots of work with the college and with the sixth form college as well, but Blackpool and Fylde actually rocked our boat because they actually came into the organisation and they understood that we needed to have not just technical skills in the organisation. To lead change, you need leadership skills as well. And nobody before had ever thought about a leadership programme for aspiring leaders and supervisors and service managers in the organisation. So in the last year, we've actually had 33 people going through an apprenticeship programme with Blackpool and Fylde College at different levels. We're talking level 5, level 3, we're talking digital, we're talking data analysts, we're talking marketing. And they've been able to handhold, to take people, that had got language barriers, people that weren't particularly IT savvy, people that, found academia very, very difficult. And their support and their handholding and their tailoring the courses to the needs of the employee has been absolutely fantastic. So I think it's not one size that fits all, but us actually having access to colleges and schools and knowing that these people that we actually relate to might be our customers and our employees of the future has been a big bonus for us.
I think that reflects on something I was alluding to earlier, this idea of, we talk about leadership skills, that apprenticeships can take us right through a business like that. So how do you see that programme developing from here, Jane?
I see it developing so that we become an employer of choice, and already that's prominent in our brand. In the figures that we see with the customer experience, for example, the tram was acclaimed the best tramway in Great Britain for customer experience last year. But also, I used to work for Virgin. Wow, when I go to Preston Station and we do rail replacement, people are saying to me, how do I get a job with Blackpool Transport? I think, your brand recognition and the fact that you seem to be such a good employer and you're retaining staff is a massive payback. And that's what I'm seeing.
Thank you very much. Yeah, yes, yeah. You're from Rock here, and such couldn't be much more different to the transport business that Jane leads. So, but I wonder how you consider apprenticeships as part of your business strategy.
Yes, we are different. We sell tiles, bathrooms, and kitchens. We're a retailer generally. For us, I think we're fairly new to apprenticeships. I've been listening to the interviews and the conversations that have happened, and for us, it was two different things really in terms of coming into the whole apprenticeship sort of world. Our first perspective around apprenticeships was to set up, in partnership with Preston College, our own tiling school. So what we thought about was, well, wait a minute, we want to give back to the community. Our chairman, he started from a joinery background, and it's a business, it's a family business that's 25 years old. And as part of our sort of 25-year celebration, we thought, well, what do we need to do? We need to give back to the community in some way. So we decided to work with Preston College, develop a tiling apprenticeship, and set up a tiling school of excellence for young people, basically. So we set up the building, we provided the whole sort of unit, all the supplies that you need, all the tiles and equipment and everything that you need. And Preston College provided the students along with the tutor and the expertise around the apprenticeship. So for us, it wasn't really about supporting the business as it is. It was very much about a legacy that we want to leave and we want to support the community with. So, these young people who would become tilers, they get a placement with a tiler or a construction company, but, one day a week, they'll be studying in our tiling centre of excellence. They learn about us as a business, but also they gain a valuable skill, which can be actually quite lucrative. And, with time, they'll be the tilers of tomorrow, and when we think about sort of tiling and you think, well, it's putting a few tiles on a wall in a bathroom, isn't it? It's how difficult can it be? But actually, now you get, you get tiles that are very technical. You get tile slabs which are 3 meters in length. you know, so how do you tile something that big? You know, what
I think
equipment do
what's
you use?
really fascinating here is the idea that you've effectively you've created an academy. I know we spoke earlier about this, and that academy idea is growing, but you've done it with the support and in partnership with an accredited college. And I think perhaps that's quite interesting. How much of that curriculum is yours and how much is theirs?
I think mainly the curriculum is a partnership. We've talked about you know, what the industry needs, you know, the fact that it's changing and it's developing, and you know, the skill level is different, and the equipment is ever changing, but it's mainly done by the college. It's very much us providing the investment. We spent 25 to 30,000 pounds in terms of setting up the whole, you know, classroom and the facility, us providing the investment and the marketing, etc., and the college providing the curriculum, and working together, you know, and that's really worked for us. And for us, apprenticeships, one is a legacy thing, but now, as we've learned more about apprenticeships, we're now getting our own employees looking at apprenticeships and using that to upskill our employees. You know, another example I have is we have an employee right now who is a bathrooms designer. So he designs bathrooms for our customers, and you know, he'll then sell that you know, design in the bathroom. But he's also doing his NVQ level 2 apprenticeship in plumbing. So which is different, but you think, well, how did it actually happen? He's actually thinking now, he's nearly finished, so he's thinking about his level 3. But what that means for our customers is that when he designs a bathroom and the customer says, well, oh, I'd like this here and I'd like this there, and can you do this? And he says, no, I'm sorry, that's not going to work. You know, this is how it works in terms of your heating, in terms of, you know, the boiler, the system, the pressure, the waste. He can provide an extra service that the other bathroom designers can't. They can look at and say, here's how nice it's going to look. But he can say, here's how nice it's going to look, but here's the technical aspect of it.
So I can see, yes, yeah, I can see there the opportunities that are being generated. Now, not everybody's going to be able to make a 20-25k investment in an academy, but I think everybody could probably go some way. But tell me about the challenges that you face as well, and how you've managed to overcome them with help around you.
In terms of the legacy project and the tiling centre of excellence, we did have challenges because we originally said, look, you know, we've got a database of tilers and we can match the students to a tiler, you know, because the tiling companies, they're small. A lot of people have talked about SMEs coming on board and small businesses coming on board. So we thought, well, these tilers, you know, they'd love to have an extra person, you know, a young person, develop them the same way we want to develop them. But a lot of tilers initially were open to the idea, but then when it came to going through all the paperwork, all the plans, all the ideas, what it means to actually take on a new employee, an employee that may have challenges, you know, may have personal challenges, may have special needs, may have mental health challenges, an employee that's maybe very different to what they're used to.
And I'm presuming that's where you need a bit of support.
Yes, and that's where I think the college comes in terms of looking after that student and working with the SME to say, look, this is what you need to have in place to take on this apprentice, and you both need to work together.
Thanks, Yassir. Jane, I think Yassir kind of took us to a place there where there is, as in all educational and all environments of learning, there's a pastoral element. Is that something that comes into your world as well, Jane?
Yes, absolutely. So we've had we've got the pandemic going on now, but during this time, our employees have needed a lot more support. Either they've been furloughed or they've been trying to study while they're still at work as well, under immense pressure as key workers. And what we found with the colleges is that pastoral support has been absolutely excellent. So, you know, at times when they've needed to have one-to-one tuition, they've needed help to access IT and certain programs, the college have handheld and walked with them. And I just think that, you know, they've gone up and above. And we have a relationship manager, and we're doing plan, do, review. And a lot of the things that have happened during the pandemic, I think, are here to stay because they've been so supportive and transformational as far as engaging and helping people to study and learn. So they've been brilliant, yes.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's clear to me from the conversations that we're having that you're making investments and you are getting results from your investments. Now, I wonder if, just think about our guests that are here today, the guests who will be watching this in the future, and our guests who will be reading this. You've had your challenges, you've had your successes, you've made your investments, you can see your returns. In the simplest sense, what would you say to other businesses in the county who are teetering on the idea of apprenticeships? Maybe. What would you say to them, Yasir?
Right now, what we're looking at as a business is using apprenticeships to upskill our existing staff. And I think it's not just, I'd say to other businesses that it's not just about taking on new people and new young people. It's about looking at your existing staff. We've got 80 or so staff, many of whom, 60, 70% of our staff have been with us over 15 years. So now they've not been through any formal training, and we're thinking, well, how do we upskill them? And, we're thinking about business management degree apprenticeships. We're thinking about even, apprenticeships just around sort of digital skills and so forth. So I'd say to businesses that, are established businesses, to say, look, it's not just about new people, it's about upskilling the staff that you have, and it's worth that investment. It's a long-term, investment, and it's absolutely, without a doubt, worth that investment because you get the support from the organizations and the collaborations that you have, whether it's a college or a university, as we're doing with UCLan right now. The other thing I'd say is as well as upskilling those existing staff, think about what we're doing in terms of contributing to the community. How are we supporting the community? How are we supporting the young people sort of coming through? Are we providing them opportunities? And for small businesses who may not have the capacity right now, or may feel that, wait, I can't take on this extra burden, I'd say to colleges, universities and others, you have to support them. You have to support these small businesses to be able to say, look, it's worth it, and this is how you look after an apprentice, and we'll do that together. Thanks,
Yasir. And finally, Jane, to you, is Yasir right? He's painting a team game here between the providers, the business, the young people, or not necessarily the people who are the apprentices, government frameworks. There's a whole spinning cycle of goodness there that sort of feeds itself. Do you agree with that assessment?
I do agree with the assessment. What we can't do is make it too political. So for me, it's about go and see for yourself, get yourself into the schools, get yourself into the colleges, go and see the talent that's around, become an enterprise advisor, help people form an opinion about the SMEs in this county and what they've got to offer, and showcase, what's available, get them interested, wind them in, and then, you've got a gateway then to say, look, there's a great pool here that I've got an opportunity to get in and convert into great employees. But don't forget about actually growing your own as well when you've got employees that are just ripe for wanting further education.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it again. Thank you very much. That's your clap for the day. They're all doing that at home, by the way. They're all rattling teacups. They're all jumping up and down and saying, thank you ever so much. And thank you, Jane Cole, and thank you, Yasir Ahmed. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're moving towards our third and final panel now, where our focus is on apprenticeships for all people and at all levels. We've heard about some of this before, but to help me carry that message and carry that argument, would you please welcome from our skills providers, Mr. Tony Openshaw, who's the Project Officer at Upskilling Lancashire at the University of Central Lancashire. We also have in the house Claire Shaw, who's the Senior Business Development Manager at Blackburn College. With us also is Lindsay Monks, Head of Apprenticeships and Employer Engagement at Preston's College. And we also are joined from our business community by Lisa Sauerbutz, Managing Director of Cube HR, and Oliver Burton, who's the Chief Executive of Forbes Solicitors. Good morning to you all. How are you?
Morning, very well.
Morning, really good, thanks.
That's fine. I'm sensing your enthusiasm, and particularly Mr. Burton. I think Mr. Burton's dying to tell us the answer to this question. How do Forbes use apprenticeships? At what levels? What are the opportunities, the benefits, and the challenges? Oliver.
Morning, Richard. Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So, Forbes, historically, I think the perception, as Jimmy was saying, is that professional services have never really embraced apprenticeships. At Forbes, we've been using them for over 15 years now. And we've probably not been necessarily promoting that historically as well as we should have been. I think most of the providers that have been on here today have had some dealings with Forbes. And it started primarily for us with the admin, kind of business admin style apprenticeships. But we now offer collaboratively, and we've developed and helped bespoke some of these as well, going through admin apprenticeships to team leaders, to paralegal, to legal execs, now all the way up to qualified solicitors. And I think the perception historically that you go to university to become a lawyer now has really, really changed, and accepting that whole way that there's a different route. We've really started to, well, I say really started to, we've always embraced it, but more so, more than ever now. And I just think the legal world has changed, the perception of the legal world has changed. Fundamentally, lawyers are in the service industry, so I think that whole historic aura of you must follow this set path to become a qualified solicitor has just been completely blown up. I think the challenge is not enough people have been kind of talking about it and embracing that.
Can I ask, is there what about, let's how can we do this politely? What about the old guard of lawyers? What's the attitude of the old guard to this new method of entering the profession?
I think it's been an interesting challenge. And I think that, again, is the legal cultural shift. And again, that bit of it being a professional business to being a service business. And I think that cultural change has actually probably gained more momentum over the last couple of years than it has probably in the previous 10. And change used to hit other industries, banking, finance, everything. Then 10 years later, it hit law. That gap has now narrowed so much that we've got to be on the forefront with that and make sure that we're continually driving it. So has some of that been a challenge? Yeah, but so's, making sure people use Zoom, making sure, so it's been a real cultural challenge. But I think it has massively changed. What I will say is where we have been using it, and you see, as I was saying it before, where it's worked really well for us is investing in our existing people, and developing our existing people. So what we haven't been doing is necessarily going out and advertising legal apprenticeships or advertising these roles as new recruits. We've been using them for people already committed to us and already who've been kind of learning the Forbes way and the Forbes style. So we've been investing in developing our own with it.
Thanks very much. Lisa, from your Managing Director at Cube HR, tell us about this in the context of your own business, but in context of the clients that you represent in terms of how they manage their people strategy with apprenticeships.
Yeah, I think there's been a huge shift, and I think some of the main themes coming out of today is that everyone still has this perception that it's about when you leave school, you go into an apprenticeship. That's how I started. I didn't go to college and do my A-levels. I signed up, but then I changed my mind and I went and did an apprenticeship. I'm actually an apprentice now at the moment, doing a level 7 with the University of Central Lancashire. So it's quite nice that I've gone full circle. But I think we still see definitely in our clients that it's that lower level entry apprentices that are still coming through, and that there's not enough talk about the level 7s that are available.
I think that's interesting, and I think it's perhaps on all of us, really, isn't it? So, Tony Openshaw at UCLan, you specialise in higher level apprenticeships. It's on all of us to share this information, isn't it? It's we can't force people to listen, but we are all having that conversation today, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think with the advent of degree apprenticeships, which are relatively new in the apprenticeship world, there is a message to be got out, Richard. You're quite right about, as Lisa said, you can do your MA, your MBAs now at a level 7. You can do level 6 with your BAs, your BScs. And that's really opened up this whole world of apprenticeships. You know, we've got now a whole pathway where we can take people from, you know, your level 2 GCSE equivalent right through to the top. And as Oliver was saying, in professional services, this is another message we need to get out, that it's not just in the construction, craft-based industries. Of course, they're still there and they're incredibly valuable, but the breadth of these apprenticeships has now really, really opened up. And when you think about, you know, the county and the need for this highly skilled workforce that we can all benefit from, if we're going to compete as we are doing now, and particularly after COVID, regionally, nationally, internationally, we're going to need a really good, well-skilled workforce that we can all draw on.
Thanks very much. Claire Shaw, I come to you at Blackburn College, and I think I'm right in saying you provide apprenticeships right throughout the range. We're always talking about upskilling the county as a kind of a thing. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just upskill the whole county? How far can we see apprenticeships and the work that you do and your colleagues in the provider sector? How far can we see apprenticeships as a device to upskill a county as a whole?
Morning, everyone. Thanks for that question, Richard. I don't think apprenticeships are a device on their own. I wish I'd had a clicker to count the number of times people this morning have spoken collaboration or partnership, but that's how we upskill the county. I think by unpicking apprenticeships and saying what actually upskills the county is that partnership of talent, of opportunity, and of skills expertise. And often apprenticeships are that skills expertise component. But if we use those three things together, then the lever can most definitely upskill the county.
Well, I'm liking that. It's talent, opportunity and expertise, and when they're all wrapped together, good things happen. Would you agree with that, Lindsay Monks?
I mean, as we've all said.
Lindsay, if I may, can I just ask you to speak a little more loud or just move into your microphone a little?
Yes, is that better?
A little bit better.
A bit better? I'll try. I'm so close to the screen now.
I think, Lindsay, right, I'd like to ask everybody at home, please quiet, because Lindsay's about to speak. Lindsay, after you.
Absolutely, I agree with Claire. I agree with everything that's been said so far. I mean, in terms of some of the people talking today, I've also, you know, been in apprenticeships for over 20 years now, started out as an apprenticeship at 20 after everything else went wrong. And again, back like Lisa, doing a level 7 apprenticeship now, going full circle. And they really did change my life, and they changed a lot of lives for a lot of different people. And I think for those of us that have worked in apprenticeships for so long, we've always seen the worth and the value in them. But then when higher apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships entered the scene, and we had this pathway of learning for people to work from level 2 up to level 7, it really propelled apprenticeships to work alongside normal academia and be recognised in the same level. So we stopped being a second-class citizen in the apprenticeship field. And I think from colleges and some of my colleagues that are on here today, we started to see a difference in the type of applications that we would get through for apprenticeships. And apprenticeships are for everybody. And that message does get out to a certain degree, but we've also talked today a lot about further messages having to go out there, starting down at school level, to really showcase how much an apprenticeship can support and aid you as a person to develop.
I think you're right, Lindsay. I think one of the absolute core themes about this is this conversation that we've had this morning. I think we've got this collaboration and partnership approach, but I think it's taking it. My impression is it's taking it from the blackboard into the working environment. If we can have these conversations, but perhaps have them where the employers want them, that's perhaps one of the messages that's coming through. And I wonder, Oliver, you know, as a business, how do you measure the value of apprenticeships within your business?
Good question. We've currently got 21 live apprenticeships within the business against a staff of probably 360-ish. So it's actually, I think, a decent proportion. Half of those are kind of split in terms of legal qualifications, and half are a more admin or kind of business team leader type roles. So how do we assess it? It's really interesting because a really crude, simple measure is I've not had to pay recruitment fees. You know, that's a really crude measure, isn't it? in terms of what that would have cost to bring those staff in, coupled with the retention of people. How do you measure that buy-in of culture? How do you measure that they've got Forbes in their DNA? It's a really difficult measurement, that, isn't it? So how do we measure it? Well, I look at staff turnover, we look at the value added, the growth in the teams. And I've got to be honest, the biggest kind of success for me, as I look at it, I'm a huge believer in knowledge transfer, and education's got us all to where we are today in some shape or form. So it's so important, whatever path that is. But seeing an individual join us relatively, well, either relatively raw and young, and seeing them qualify as either a paralegal or as a solicitor, for me, there's no better feeling than seeing that journey. So how do I measure it? I measure it from mainly my satisfaction as the business of seeing that difference that we've made for people. And, you know, my kind of big play for people, Richard, anyway. But for me, that is so important. But then the value that they add to the business in whatever their role, you know, is just incredible. So for me, and also obviously seeing those people that have maybe been in their role for so long and haven't been invested in or haven't, you know, developed themselves, it's a great opportunity again to help develop those people, to help just add those little extra bits of value. You know, we've got an individual at the minute who's going through their kind of office manager, team leader role, and the number of times she walks past my office and sticks her head and goes, I get it now. I get why you used to say that now. You know, and the words that they're using and just that knowledge transfer and that self-development of people, and then the cascade effect. But also they're now a huge ambassador for apprenticeships as well. Once you've been through it, it's...
Yeah, understood. Sorry, Oliver. Yeah.
That's all right.
So we got. I mean, this is a new turn on the conversation. I'm going to reflect on this a little bit. But recruitment and retention, that's quite a big deal. Is that, Lisa? Is that something that you recognise within the skills and the apprenticeships environment, that it is a true aid to recruitment and retention?
Absolutely. You know, I think wanting to develop your staff and being interested in where they want to go is one of the biggest things that you can do for staff retention, and being able to learn and get a qualification at the same time and develop yourself in your workplace. I mean, it's win-win-win for everybody in that scenario. Who doesn't win in that, you know? What's really important though is involving the individual. It's not for an employer to go and say, I want you to go and do an apprentice, you know, go and do an apprenticeship. It's for the employer to say, what does your career path look like to you? What are your retention levers? What's important? And then can we work in a partnership to find something that matches? So using the word collaboration again, but for me, it's the collaboration between the employee and the employer to start with, and then reaching out to all these fantastic providers that we've got in the county to find some matches.
I think again, what I think is triggering me there is the idea of these being strategic conversations that we can do in advance and that we can plan. They don't necessarily need to be ad hoc. And Claire Shaw, I wonder, reflects on that, and perhaps also on what Ollie said a moment ago about recruitment and retention. What else are we missing? That's you know, we understand training, skills. What we perhaps don't understand is the impact on recruitment and retention until it's mentioned to us. What are the other benefits that we're not quite seeing, Claire?
I think one of the great benefits that we don't talk about often enough is the mentorship and leadership capabilities that undoubtedly grow from those employers, managers who are the workplace support. I think that's something that's often not talked about. So the apprenticeships definitely have an impact on recruitment and retention for the apprentices, but there's also a real benefit to those in the workplace who are the first line managers, who are there every day supporting the apprentices. And I think that's something that we can often have more of a conversation with employers about.
Okay, so let's take it a step further then, if I may, Claire. How do you demonstrate the value to people like Lisa and to people like Oliver? And bearing in mind, really, when we're making friends with people like Lisa and Oliver, we're after their contacts, aren't we? We want to talk to we want them to refer our services. So how do you demonstrate value to employers?
I think it's two ways. I mean, you spoke about refer, And the real reference is the storytelling. It's the public storytelling that happens on events such as today, starting to hear business leaders saying, I am doing an apprenticeship at a senior strategic level. That starts the conversation. And then the references that we ask our prospective businesses who are going to do business with us, please go and talk to employers, ask them particularly. But then we must also to listen to what they say value means to them, because different employers have said different things. They've said legacy, growth, opportunity to get in first. So we must listen as well as talk.
Richard, can I just chip in very quickly?
Please do.
Claire hits a really important point there, because we're talking here like all of these apprenticeships go swimmingly well all the time. And unfortunately they don't. You know, and part of that, we talk about partnership, and we're talking about the partnership between, you know, the provider and the business, but there's the third party to that, which is actually the individual as well. And, you know, their desire and hunger to succeed and grow and develop as well. And that partnership is so key. When things are going well, it's great, but the partnership is so key when things aren't going as well.
How far can you, Oliver, with that in mind then, how far, Oliver, can you rely on your provider partners, and how much of the responsibility is yours to fix the challenges?
Yeah, and obviously we've worked with, as far as I think we've worked with everyone on this call. So maybe they're the better idea of, I'll give a better answer of how we've helped with that. All I'd say is that I think the way we approach apprenticeships is we do try and really jump in feet first. We don't say to the provider, you do this. We do try and do some of it in-house as well and support along the way. So unless anyone on here says otherwise, I think we've tried to take a lot of ownership and responsibility to it and accountability to it. But my point was more, there's that third party as well to it. It's not just the employer and the provider. You've got to have a willing participant as well.
I think you're absolutely right. You've got to get, because I think somebody else mentioned it earlier. It's about, you need the buy-in from all parties, don't you? It's not, you can't just impose that. Lindsay Monks, if I can come to you, Oliver's point there is quite interesting. So I'm going to change the question slightly to this: how do you demonstrate the value to employers whilst acknowledging the challenges some of them face, at least some of the time?
I think it's about transparent communication. It's about being honest and upfront. Things aren't always going to go swimmingly well, and you can obviously sell the value of apprenticeships and the young people, but until you've got that young person before you, or even your actual member of staff that you're looking to upskill, it's about really being truthful about what the apprenticeship involves, what expectations are going to be needed by every party, what we're going to do to support, what the individual has to do and put into it in order to be able to get something out the other end, and how the employer needs to support that individual. And I think, that message has to come across very transparently, very clearly right at the beginning for the partnership between all three people to work. Again, it still won't always work, but again, it's about how you then recover from that situation, how, if an apprentice is going to walk away from that situation, how you can still guide them to make the best choices moving out of that, how you can support the employer in that situation. And we're coming back to collaboration, but it's about working together, but it's really about that upfront messaging and that clear, transparent communication about what expectations are needed for all parties.
Thanks, Lindsay. I mean, we've used the word collaboration quite a lot today. I'm getting the feeling that when this works at its best, it's a bit more than collaboration. Tony Openshaw, it's starting to feel like when we want the real action here, it's more than collaboration. It's partnership, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and obviously I work on an upskilling project for Lancashire, and whilst UCLan is the lead partner, we've got 6 other partners, and Preston's College and other colleges who've been on the panels today are involved with us with that. And I think it's the wider picture here about referring between partners as well. So there is this progression through the apprenticeship. So at the end of the day, we want to meet business needs. Lisa's and Oliver's business needs for the future is what we're about. And therefore, if there's a journey and a pathway that we can identify for their employees that will give them that growth, give them those new skills that they need, like you say, that's when it's working well. And I think it's keeping our eye on the future. It's looking at what the transformation in businesses are going to look like coming out of COVID. Your first panel talked about the needs to be, more digital, moving more. If you've got a retail business, it's going to have to be online to a certain extent. In hospitality, cafes moving into takeaways. There's umpteen examples here of where businesses need to transform and to grow. And apprenticeships are a great way of bringing not just new talent, but as already been said, investing in your existing staff and upskilling them so that they can meet some of these challenges that are going to be coming together. And that collaboration is like between all providers, between the apprenticeship and the role that they have with a mentor within the business as well, and the support that colleges and universities provide to them if they need extra, educational support in whatever that might be, with assignments or any support with learning, that is available. And I think we've all upped our game in this area as well, because we realise that there are lots of challenges out there for all our apprenticeships, and we need to support them in the best way that we can.
Thanks very much, Tony. I've got a question in from Jacqueline Woodland from Woodlands Assist Global. Jacqueline's wondering if there's a list of legal providers in Lancashire willing to support students joining the September 2021 degree apprenticeship. I think Jackie will, if Holly, you could put that down onto our message. Maybe one of our providers or Oliver might be well positioned to help answer that question after the event, if that's okay. But I've got one final question for our panel now, and it's the same question I've asked the others, because this is the sort of stuff that can generate some nice headlines. So it's this question: if you could bring forward an initiative for apprenticeships and skills, what would that be? Starting with you, Lindsay Monks.
I'm going to pick up on something that Rowena mentioned in panel 1, but I think it's really important, and that's to start getting the message of apprenticeships into primary schools.
Let's get him young. Let's get him enthused young. Thank you, Lindsay. Claire Shaw. If you could bring forward an initiative, what would that be?
For me, that would be to take the initiatives we've got and enshrine them in policy so they stay for at least 5 years, and we're not just keeping on looking at initiatives every few months.
I've just got to tell you this. I've got two guys either side of me going, that sounds about right. Thank you for that. Tony Openshaw from UCLan, if you could bring forward an initiative for apprenticeships, what would that be?
I think it's this renewed focus on lifelong learning. You don't just do one apprenticeship, you do several through your career to upskill yourself. And the white paper that's been mentioned previously that only was published last month about skills for jobs for lifelong learning, I think we need to take some of the messages out of that, and as a county and as providers, we need to look at how we can really facilitate making that journey for people both clearly mapped out, because I'm not sure if that's always clear in employers' minds that how these things connect. So maybe we should do more sort of process mapping, or I like to think more of mind maps and visual things rather than reports, but something that shows how you can progress through a lifelong learning journey.
Lifelong learning. Thank you, Tony Openshaw. Lisa Sowerbutts, if you could bring forward an initiative for apprenticeships and skills, what would that be?
Yeah, so if we look at what's happened in the last year, we've had a record number of new businesses be registered, whether that be people just thinking this is the time to take the leap, or they've been made redundant or whatever. And most of us set up our own business because we're technically good at what our business does. We might have some of the other skills missing, so maybe targeting new business owners with something like the Level 7 MBA, so we can learn how to do finance, how to do innovation and change, how to do some of the skills that we might not necessarily have. I think would be a really good way forward. Well,
I'm gonna something. I'd like an apprenticeship in delegating all those difficult tasks that I don't like doing. So if you can create an apprenticeship program for delegating difficult tasks that Richard Slater doesn't like doing, I'm all in. Finally, to you, Mr. Oliver Burton, if you could bring forward an initiative for apprenticeships and skills, what would that be?
So I get to pick anyone, the ones we've already heard, really, don't I? I'm going to go a little bit.
In fact, you can have. If I was you, I'd say, well, I thought about saying all of those things that came before me, but I'd have one up my sleeve, Oliver.
Well, I have, and they're rolled up as well. So mine might be slightly off piste here. So cast your minds back to when Aldi hit the high streets. People would pull their face, wouldn't they? Turn the nose up at Aldi and at that kind of supermarket versus, you know, even the other end at the time, which was probably Sainsbury's and a Booths. Apprenticeships for me started as that Aldi. And people quite often would turn the nose up and think, no, I'm going the university route because that's a better route or a more recognised route.
Oh, it's one that my mum and dad recognise, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, and I think we've got to get to a place where we are now with Aldi, where people don't even bat an eyelid. Everyone loves a rummage in the middle aisles of Aldi. But now we've got to get to a place where apprenticeship isn't a separate, I think it is part of the whole suite. It is part of the whole education empire, which it is, but I still don't think the stigma has quite gone and the understanding of what is available is fully out there. So as a business I'm just not convinced everyone is on that same page yet. So I think for me, it's the campaigning from everybody to keep talking about it like it's second nature.
Thank you, Oliver. It's why we're here today, and I'd like to think that all our contributors today and our audience today will help us carry that message, because I don't think there's anything wrong in saying that. It's we need to tell more people about the good stuff that's going on in apprenticeships. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please make a little bit of noise for our third round of panelists who are about to leave us. Thank you all for that. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our formal business today. But I do hope you'll stay with us, because we're going to do some of that glorious chaos of informal Zoom networking in a minute. There's a load I could talk about today after this event. I've got too many notes, actually. We've got that stuff about talent, opportunity, expertise, lifelong learning, recruitment, retention. I've got that many notes. I can't begin to scribble them all out. So, but what I am certain about is that we're going to have a great story to tell after this, and the apprenticeship story is going to roll on and on. So thank you all for tuning in and for your many and varied contributions. Thank you for those who asked the questions to us. Apologies for not being able to get to them all. Thank you to our guest speaker, Lisa Moiser of the Lancashire Skills Hub, and to all our panellists. And I do genuinely think we've had insight thrown at us. We've had wisdom. We've had challenge. We've had opportunity. We've had difficulties. But insight and expertise brought to bear by the likes of Dave Walker, Linda Dean, Claire Shaw, Neil Burrows, Rowena Bruff, Gareth Lindsay, Jimmy King, Lindsay Monks, Tony Openshaw, Jane Cole, Lisa Sourbutt, Oliver Burton, Mark Edwards, Andrew Wood, Neil Ainsworth, Yasir Ahmed, and Chris Baldwin. It's been a spectacular lineup. Thank you. But I've got to say a big thank you to all our partners on this event. We've got Plus 24 Academy, Blackburn College, Blackpool and the Fylde College, Burnley College, Nelson and Colne College, the North Lancs Training Group, or NLTG. We've got Pierce Chartered Accountants, Preston's College, and the University of Central Lancashire through their Upskilling Lancashire programme. Lastly, I'd like to thank our friends here at Big Tank Productions, that's these guys here and back there, for their televisual expertise. I'd also like to thank Holly Martin and Abby Leake for gluing it all together back at Lancashire Business View HQ. The story of this event and some of the insight that we've heard will be reported online, I think this afternoon, by our editor, Jed Henderson. It will be available to watch back on demand. And if you think someone would benefit from the insight in this event, just share. We're going to send you a bunch of stuff later on this afternoon or in the morning. Share what we've generated here, because I'm left in no doubt whatsoever that upskilling our county is good for all our businesses. I'd also like to commend this to you. This is the current edition of Lancashire Business View magazine, there, featuring an extended, I say extended, it's 9 full pages all about apprenticeships, and almost everybody that we've spoken to today, certainly on the provider side, is contributing to that conversation, and I'd commend that to you. At the end of the day, what are we here for? Well, fundamentally, we're here for this, to hope that today's conversations start more conversations, not end them. Please make contact with our apprenticeships providers that you've met this morning. We'll be sharing those details. See how they can help your business or your clients' businesses, and don't be afraid. You've heard them all say, do not be afraid to tell the providers what you need and what you want, because that's music to their ears. And ladies and gentlemen, when you are inspired to dedicate more to your apprenticeships and skills program, developing your business through those methods, tell us, because I'll be looking for new people to sit on these panels this time next year, and I hope it's you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can buy it in Lancashire, buy buy it in Lancashire. I've been Richard Slater, and it's been my pleasure.